Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative is speaking to Sofie Eifertinger about Kitz, which is streaming now worldwide on Netflix. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's exciting. I mean, it's pretty cool because, you know, acting and storytelling, there's different kind of routes and different paths. How did you kind of get into acting and storytelling specifically, Sofie?
So the first path, I think, was not even so super alternative, but rather poppy. It was through like, in Germany, it's called plötzlich Prinzessin, which is like suddenly a princess.
Yep.
With Anne Hathaway. That was like one of the benchmark films where I was like, damn, I want to be that girl.
Yeah.
And then also I played with my girlfriends, especially like my best friend, and we would sit on the bed and just like replay the scenes. So that was kind of like a benchmark for the glitz and glamour about it. But then I think the actual root of acting came earlier in childhood, and it wasn't actually connected to a stage, but it was more that the way that I grew up very free. Like
Yeah.
I had an amazing childhood. We moved several times, and I had the chance to really experience myself and do ballet, and very, very privileged. And one of the privileges was that my grandfather would just give me a camcorder, and I could walk around wherever I was, and just story tell what I was perceiving. And I think that's kind of the craft that I have now also, is to portray what I see and feel, and give this image so that others can feel with me.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And you're from Germany, but you actually went and studied abroad. You went and studied in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And I'm just curious, is that when, did you know a little bit of English before you went to Montreal? Like, did you speak English a little bit in Germany? Like, what was that like for you specifically?
Yeah, so my mom's a teacher of English and French.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
we
you did.
always, yeah, we watched the whole, like all of Friends together, for example. And I also went to school in Brussels, like to the German School of Brussels. So I was surrounded by internationals early on. Plus, English is actually kind of like a second native language in Germany by now.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of Denglish, as we say. It's like a mix of German and English, and you see that in Kitz also. You know, there's a lot of Anglicisms. So I feel like English is a mother tongue also.
Is this one of your first like English interviews for
It
Kitz?
is my
Okay,
first.
yeah.
It is my first. You're my first.
Because I find it interesting, because I'm a big fan. Like, one of my favorite things about content right now, Sofie, is I can watch content from all around the world, and Netflix does an amazing job at that. But they give you the option to watch it dubbed in English, but I'm not about that. I watch it in subtitles. And I'm saying it loud and proud, watch it in subtitles. Watch Kitz in German with the subtitles, okay? But is it an interesting thing though, where a lot of people who do watch it with the subtitles, they hear you speak German basically, and then now like you're doing an interview in English. It's like a cool, interesting dynamic, right? Like behind the scenes of it.
Yeah. So actually, there was a point where I was like, okay, how far can I go as like a very up and coming actress, meaning like very outsider still?
Yeah.
How could I package wanting to dub myself in English? But I ended up not even suggesting it, because
some people did their own dubs though, right? Like there's some shows that they do, but for Kitz, you did not do your own dubs, right?
No, I didn't. But it was cool also because like there's a little bit of a community already coming up for all the people who synchronized Lisi and like the other characters.
Yep.
So for example, the French Lisi, she contacted me because of course it's such a complex character. You really go to bed with her and her thoughts and like her emotional baggage that she carries with her in every scene. So you have a lot to talk about when you synchronize her, and that's an idea I love about being dubbed, is just like to see all those different artists from around the world moving into the story and, you know, the emotional layout of it, and giving it their voice.
For sure. I'm not going to go into spoilers, but I do have a question specifically about your character in Kitz, because it's something that's been driving me crazy a little bit. Like, obviously, you know,
He does.
Yeah,
He does.
The end of season 1. You know, I understand, you know, your character's arc, and your character obviously has a motive and a goal in mind with everything and figuring out what happened and everything, but doesn't really help the situation at all at the end. So I'm just curious, from your perspective, when you're reading the script or you're preparing, your character is very complex, like from the beginning to end, but your character has this ability to be a little bit, not destructive, but kind of disruptive a little bit, right? And kind of mess things up. So what's that kind of like to see on the script and then doing that on the show Kitz? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that is the eternal question that like was before me, before we started shooting, was what's her weapon?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does she move through this revenge story, if not through the classical violent way? Because she's very violent, but she's not actually an aggressor in every scene.
No, exactly.
She's just very intuitive, and she feels what her superpower is the ability to feel from heart to heart.
Yeah.
So her plan is actually to tear down the facade of this Vanessa person so that everybody can see her truth. And that has both sides. Like, there's a light and a shadow aspect of that. Yep. And the light aspect is that Vanessa actually in the process grows more into herself.
Yep.
And so does Lisi. But then there's this treaty that she has with herself and her dead brother, and of course Hans, where she's bound by something that's from the past, and this traumatic experience is kind of just like, it just interrupts with her lived experience in the now.
Yeah.
And I think that's what disrupts. It's the trauma that disrupts, because there's always a layer of interpretation between what actually the person in front of her is saying and what she's capable of perceiving.
Yeah, but does that come off challenging for an actor when you are kind of tasked with playing a character that is, like you said, not aggressive, but can do and say things and make decisions that could lead to like a path of a lot of kind of not good things? We'll leave it at that.
I mean, she is by far the most demanding character. That is also, I mean, the show is also the biggest show I've been in so far. It's the first international production. I mean, it's the German-Austrian production, and that's already international. After Kitz, I already did a German-Italian co-production, and like, I'm growing.
Yeah.
But at that point, it was just the amount of labor, and especially emotional labor, I put into her and her perception is like crazy. And also it was to find a new way of acting, because there's also this breaking the fourth wall with Kitz.
Yep.
Because Lisi, she kind of reads from her diary or something. It's not exactly clear what her what the situation is from which she voices over the situations.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus she's not a subjective narrator, because she knows different plot lines also.
Yep.
So yeah, there's this kind of polyphonious thing, although it's her voice. So okay, now I drifted off. What I wanted to say was Do you know, like when you go in too deep and then you're trying to get back up and you don't know where you're.
Like quicksand
But
almost.
no, but I think that's the thing. It was a new kind of acting for me, because I also wanted to show how it is to be on set, because on set you also have these hierarchies between like depending upon which position you're in. So an actor would be treated differently to somebody who's organizing, even though the value of the work is identical. Both is really hard labor, but still there's this hierarchy. And you see that in the phenotypical, you know, in the layout. There's Vanessa and Pippa, who look like straight from the cover of a magazine, and Lisi moves in, for example, the brunch scenes, and it kind of sometimes looks as if I, as an actress, like Lisi, were a bystander, but she's the protagonist. So that confusion, I think that's what I love most about Kitz. It's demanding.
It's demanding. It's complex. It's thought-provoking in a way too, because I remember like, you know, seeing online, it creates a lot of discussions, and I feel like a lot of shows strive to do that. I feel like some shows kind of have a hard time doing that at times, but I think Kitz does a great job of that. And the reception worldwide has just been amazing too, right? Because it's on Netflix. Is it blow your mind a little bit that the whole world basically gets to see it essentially almost?
Yes. It does. But I mean, the thing is, it's actually the most beautiful start of a career as an actress that I can wish for, like, meaning, you know, like going the next bigger steps. In my hometown in Munich, that was the only town with like visual merchandising, so like posters hanging up there. So I have all my friends from school, and they're like, dude, Sofie, you're on the bus stop, I see you, like, you know, you're there. And I'm like, yeah,
Netflix
I know,
does
my face is like this.
Netflix does a lot of that with, also I've been seeing like online, like a lot of billboards, like huge billboards of their shows. And the billboards too are funny too, because you're walking and you just look up and it's like right there. But
like big.
It is so crazy. It's also, you know, your actors and storytellers provide escapes when we need them most. There's a lot of unfortunate things happening in the world right now. As a actor, and I see a lot of your social media posts, and I think it's amazing. You also consider yourself as well an advocate for a lot of important issues as well, right? So how important is that kind of wearing many hats aspect of things, where, you know, you go in, you're in the public eye a lot because you're on Kitz, that's available worldwide on Netflix, but then you have a platform where you can push a lot of these important issues that you think are important to push on social media. Can you talk a little bit about that, Sofie?
Oh yeah. So I think my, again, privilege is that I have had the best education like ever in Germany. I grew up in Bavaria, as I said, and in Brussels, and now I'm at Free University in Berlin and study political sciences, which is kind of always a way to look through the public eye and look what the public eye can see. And then there's an extra that I do, like I study intersectionality, so I kind of get this lens to look through, which makes it actually in a way easy to be an advocate, because I can just apply my lens to a topic and be like, hey dude, look at this, focus on this. So it's kind of a way for me to focus. And that's also what I meant. I'm actually a hyper rational person, and I'm hyper rationally applying emotions in a way. So this connection just opens so many doors to being an advocate. And of course, before today, I was thinking about how to kind of contextualize our talking today. But especially in times of crisis, I think these kind of metaphors that Kitz gives us, for example, it's kind of like a tarot card game. It's like an oracle. You have different characters, and they all have different traits and different fears and mistakes, and of course also strengths and weaknesses, and they navigate through a different landscape and a difficult landscape, but they move through it. And I think that's the worst that can happen, the freeze response
Yeah.
to aggressions like right now, or to violence like right now. And so also what I did on my feed now was to start looking at what I learned in the the founding principles of our political system today.
Yeah.
Because when you look at it, then you can start seeing it more as a card game, unfortunately, which it is a lot of times. Plus, I try to apply it to script analysis, because then you lose fear when you lose the fear of losing control.
Yeah.
And if you gamify something, like if you make it just understandable, comprehensive,
Yep.
then it gets easier and easier to read the news and to be like, okay, what's happening here and here? What does X do, and why does Z do that and stuff? So I actually see a lot of wealth in Kitz regarding just integrating difficult times in the crises.
I agree, and that's very well said. Yeah, no, your feed, it's amazing how you are able to use your feed for a lot of amazing things and a lot of advocacy, and I wanted to thank you for that, because I think that's very important, and it is important to see that people like yourself that do, like I said, become in the public eye, they do have this platform with a lot of eyes on them. And then it's kind of their choice to, okay, what are you going to do with this kind of platform with all these people? What are you going to do with the audience, right? So you've obviously made a decision to stress the importance of a lot of important world topical social issues. So thank you for that. And thank you for coming on Popternative. It was so great to chat with you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Because when I saw Popternative, I saw that Krista was here also.
Yes.
Pippa, I love her. And then I of course I thought, like, okay, Popternative, it's like pop and alternative, or what's your
okay you know what, it's funny because from time to time people will ask me a question on my show, and it's happened like 7 times now. That's always the question. Like, how did you come up with the name? I wanted to cover everything. I wanted to interview a lot of different things, a lot of different people from a lot of the worlds. I grew up in a lot of like a music scene where we listened to a lot of, independent music, a lot of underground music, a lot of, alternative rock, alternative pop punk and all that stuff. And then I also wanted to cover a lot of popular culture as well. So the original kind of idea was to blend and combine the worlds. Like, I took alt out of alternative and I added pop. And it was one of those things where I was just on the bus waiting to go to school, because I did a master's in communications at Carleton University. And I was just thinking, like, I wanted to start a podcast. It started more as a podcast. Now it's like a media outlet where we cover a lot of things and everything. But it started as like topical discussions. And I was like, I want to talk about a lot of different things, but I want to talk to people from a lot of different industries. I want to talk to, the people on the very big pop culture realm, like on the Netflix shows, but I also want to talk to people that run a little independent label, right? That maybe aren't considered, the mainstream like culture and everything. So I blended them both together essentially. So if that answers your question.
It does, and it's perfect. We actually have a vocabulary for that. It's called mainstreaming.
Yes.
It's kind of to look at what's at the margins, because I mean, there's this quality to the margins of the industry where creativity isn't immediately, attached to profit, and that tends to benefit creativity and creative outlets. But then I love how our economy is also, made possible that we do have the ability to go and take some risks. I think Kitz was a risk for Netflix because of this new kind of storytelling. It's very diverse, and it's not just diverse from character wise, but also the story. There's some breaks.
It's interesting you said that though, because I will actually I agree with a little bit of the risk, but I also see an opportunity where there wasn't a lot of like, it was, you know, they consider like the young adult genre. There weren't that many shows from Europe on Netflix of the young adult drama, in my opinion. And I think there needed to be more of them. So I think Kitz, in my opinion, had very perfect timing in regards to that. And I think that was great. And fingers crossed for season 2. I know that's a whole other thing, but
another thing. Yeah.
I brought up your social media. Where could people follow you on social media? Can you plug away your social media so people could follow you?
Absolutely. So it's Sofie Eifertinger.
Yep.
And I mean, Eifertinger is a very rare name. It's like from Bavaria / Austria. There's actually a small town. It's called Eiferting.
Yep.
And yeah, it's just my name.
Absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. You can watch Kitz now on Netflix season 1. Until next time, this is Sofie and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.